Have you ever felt the energy all around you or a sensation that's typically not there and thought to yourself, what is going on? Well, lucky for you, in this show, Master Your Energy, we're going to dive deep and explore the energy going around in the cosmos and how it might be impacting us here on Earth. And also, each episode, you'll gain new tools, perspectives, and ways to connect deeper and deeper with your own energy. And of course, I'm your host, Sara Wong. After 15 years in being in a corporate environment, I decided to dive deeper into my own energy. And over the last 10 years, I've studied things including emotional intelligence, quantum physics. I also became a Reiki master. And specifically speaking, over the last 4 years, I opened my own business and have served thousands of clients in understanding and healing their own energy. As your guide, I'm honored to be here with you today. So we're in a new month, the month of March. Welcome, welcome. It is my honor to be here and to also bring to life the energy of March. You know, March is traditionally known as a lucky month given the history of St. Patrick's Day, celebrating luck, abundance. We also have 3 big energy days, March 6th, March 9th, and March 20th. Those are just energetic vibrations that are here to support us with new beginnings, new ideas, new opportunities. So just jot those down, see what happens. Everyone's different. This is the journey we get to explore all about March. But first, let's start with where we're at this week. So this week, of course, it's the new beginning. The month of March is here, and we're also in Pisces season, which if you look at the zodiac calendar, which it's interesting that Pisces is actually the last zodiac sign of Pisces of 2020. And it's a Pisces energy. It's water. It's here to clear out whatever is blocking our way forward. So, you know, the saying, spring forward, it's March forward. We're all ready in different ways to explore this energy for ourselves and for, I think, even our family and friends, trying to find new ways to work with these relationships that I think are constantly evolving around us, whether that's new friendships coming in, new ideas, new job opportunities, maybe starting a new job. This is truly a month and a week for new beginnings. Now, sometimes when we move into an energy that is so open and airy, and really that is to me the energy of March is I can breathe again. A lot of that also has to do with there's all the planets right now in the solar system are direct finally, and we've been going through a lot of different retrogrades, which can create a lot of different energies for us to explore, grow through. I think 2020 was a year of growth that we all are still processing in so many different ways. And obviously, we're still in the reality we're in. But the difference is we've been in this reality for a while. So we're finding new ways to move forward with what we feel most available and also, you know, with a lot more information. So the month of March is an opportunity to really explore life in a new way. And so if you're thinking about your life right now and maybe nothing's coming up for you, one exercise I would highly recommend is you can Google, you can Bing it, whatever your browser choice is. Look up the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life, there's different versions out there, so many different ways, so many different articles on how to connect with it. The way I like to use it is explore different parts of my life and just tap into where am I giving the most energy to? And then meditating on that through journaling or just in reflection mode and asking if that still serves me or if there's another area of my life that I would like to give more energy to and maybe explore in a new way. So sometimes people reference this time of year as spring cleaning. This can also be spring cleansing for your energy. Now, what's really interesting about this month is there's a lot of different energies coming in that haven't really happened in a while. And it's not necessarily attached to the astrology, but in my opinion, we're actually shifting out of a lot of energy from 2020, energetically speaking. And if you follow the zodiac calendar, the month of March, we're shifting into Aries season, which starts off the new year. Now, we also have the spring equinox happening. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of energy happening in March and a lot of upbeat and positivity. Now, I will say this, we have a special event happening this Friday, and it is an asteroid that is going to be flying by Earth. No worries here. It's not going to hit us. It's not that close. Scientists, many have confirmed. And believe me, I've looked into it. But it is going to interact with the energy here on Earth. And also, this same asteroid is going to come back again, but much closer in 2029. So, depending on your journey, you might experience this asteroid twice, but this energy is very powerful and it's here to light up energy in a new way. So maybe it brings new ideas instantly, maybe it brings change instantly. There is no necessarily guarantee on how this will impact our energy here on Earth because asteroids are kind of the gift of the cosmos. It brings that unexpected news, unexpected change, however that might manifest. So I'm just putting it on your radar for this Friday, 3/5. We got an asteroid energy flying by Earth, so you might feel it in some way. So just be open to exploring that energy. And of course, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I actually am so excited to introduce today's guest, my friend Emma Roberts. And before I even jump into Emma, I created a little intro. So I'm going to actually play that for you first. So here you go. Do rocks have energy, and why do people call them crystals? Today we're going to dive into the mineral world that's all around us here on Earth. And if you're just tuning in, this is Master Your Energy with your host, Sara Wong, here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And we're going to dive deep into the mineral kingdom with a special guest today, Emma Roberts. Emma Roberts is an intuitive crystal jewelry designer that works with raw crystals to create one-of-a-kind wearable art pieces. From a young age, she was interested in the metaphysical world, but chose a more traditional education as an astrophysicist before she finally settled into her true calling of bringing crystals to life. She now makes her jewelry using a mix of science and art, balancing the energies of the crystals with the conductive nature of pure copper. So on today's episode, let's dive into the energy of crystals and rocks. Emma, thank you so much for being on this show today. Given that we have an asteroid flying by Earth, I figured you'd be the perfect person to bring on to explore the energies of the mineral kingdom and also talk about this asteroid a little bit more. But before we get started, let's have you give your background. I love your story, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Let's hear your background story.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I am very grateful to be here today. I love talking crystals with you. It's one of my favorite things. I miss that about our weekly interactions.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be here today doing that. So a little bit about me. I am currently a intuitive crystal jewelry designer. And I've given myself that title because I'm not your average jewelry designer. I don't manufacture, I make everything with my hands, but I make each piece one of a kind based on my interaction with the crystal. And I didn't know how to explain that to people, so I just decided to make up a title of intuitive designer. And that's what I do. I pick up a rock. We talk about how like you go to a crystal store and you have that one you can't let go of. That's how I select my stones. I love going to gem shows and really just touching them all and seeing what they could be. And I feel like I'm in some ways a conduit to create their next step and pass that on to my clients and people who are exploring their energies for the first time. So I love what I do. But I didn't start out knowing that that's what I wanted to do. I went to school for astrophysics. I actually specialized in protoplanetary disk formation. So my research was based on the young clusters of stars that would eventually possibly form planets. And the questions we were looking at are, what's the probability that Earth-like planets exist? That's ultimately the question, right? Like that everyone wants to know,
Yep.
is there life out there? So it was really neat in some ways that I got to really explore how planets form.
Mhm.
So it's all about the collapse of the star, the extra dust spinning around, gravitationally attracted. Eventually, accretion happens, runaway accretion. You get one planetary bigger than the other, and they start to eat up all the dust in their way. And all of that forms what we live in today. The asteroids that are way out in the asteroid belt or coming in close to Earth every now and then, those are all part of that formation process. And I loved conceptually doing that. And I was very good at science, but I didn't feel right. It didn't feed my soul in the way I knew it had to. For me to do something for the rest of my life, it has to be something that just feeds my soul. And so I left that field kind of on a whim. I call it my intuition. I knew that I was on my own journey and that wasn't it. And throughout the years, I kind of developed my job that I have now, which is working with crystals. It started as a hobby,
Mhm.
just like that calling, that like needling at your ear that you can't ignore. You're supposed to be working with these. And it then turned into something more. And now I get to use my science background in how I create the jewelry. It's very mad scientist, electricity and current and copper particles and nothing like you imagine when you think jeweler. And I get to combine my love of crystals and my connection to the earth in a way that keeps me grounded. And I get to share it with everybody else. So it's kind of the perfect job.
It's so interesting too because you talk about your background in being an astrophysicist and you're like studying the galactics, studying the formation of planetary systems, and yeah, you're directed literally back to Earth and to work with the elements and the frequencies here on Earth. And just knowing you and throughout the last several years, right? You just love the chemistry and the structure of crystals, and you have so much innate knowledge and wisdom. And I feel like because you studied minerals and particles and frequencies in this space system, you're able to apply that energy in such a unique way that the way you articulate how crystals are formed to me is always so fun to hear. So would you love to just share your knowledge about crystal formation, and then let's talk about the asteroid energy too.
Absolutely. You may have to stop me if I ramble on about crystals too much because
Mhm.
you're right. I love it. And I can talk about this forever because it's so cool. It's when I look at a geode or a crystal or just even a slice of what most people consider to be normal rocks, what you're looking at is our planetary formations history encapsulated in that stone. And there's so much beauty in that, but there's also so much chaos that produced it. So, right now, with the earth the way it is, we're not really producing crystals. The ones that we're digging up, they're old. They're from when the planets formed. Like this is old magic in a way, And how basic geode forms. Most of them form from igneous rock, which is volcanic rock. The
Mhm.
reason is volcanic rock cools rather quickly and it's porous. It has little itty bitty tiny holes in that rock. That's important because that's the way in. So when there's a piece of igneous rock that has an air bubble from the lava flow or whatnot, there's an empty space in the middle. Nature's going to fill that. So over time, you now have this cooled, porous rock with an empty little cavity inside, and water just drips in. And slowly it's going to bring other minerals and other things that it flows. And if you think about an agate, right? Agates have those rings of different colors, the concentric rings when you cut them open. Those are all like growth rings of a tree. This is a different mineral, a different composition that flowed in and eventually formed these rings. And then somehow the atmosphere or the environment changes a little and a different mineral flows in. When you're lucky enough to get a crystal, oftentimes you have agate formation first, and then you have the water stops and there's open air in there, and you have the seed crystals that can then grow and form from the minerals, and you end up with things like quartz or amethyst, the geodes that we're used to seeing on the inside.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. And the biggest geodes can take up to 1,000,000 years to form. So this is not a fast process. This is something slow and deliberate, but it only happens from chaos. And that's so cool to me.
Yeah, I love how you explain chaos because to me, the way you describe it is, the minerals interacting with each other and creating these formations that to me, I see the energy of it. And I'm just like, yeah, that feels so calming. And I can see how, when I connect to crystal energy or rocks, and, there are different types like you just described. And, there's different terminology and all the different nuances. But to me, it's all about the energetics and what is the energy activating within my own energetic field. So sometimes I love rocks. My grandfather and my dad's side of the family has this beautiful cabin in Northern California, and they have this stream of riverbeds around it. I believe there's like 9 just to get to the cabin. And in these river streams are these amazing rocks and quartz and all types of different energies that are literally from the mountain, and they feel so different than what I've ever experienced, even from miners, and especially at crystal stores. And it's something that I feel sometimes we discount because we hear a trend, or people get really into their crystals and it becomes more of an occult thing. But the truth of all minerals is that they have a frequency and a vibration, and it will interact in every individual based on our atomic makeup. So we were talking about this earlier and you brought this perspective to me. So I would love for you to expand on that as well.
Yeah, I think I think you're right that there is a misconception that crystals are part of the occult or there's some mystical thing. To me, they're our connection to the earth. That's really what they are. And, our bodies connect to the earth. They've actually done studies that you can uh, ground yourself, you can improve your mood, you can actually lower your inflammation physically if you just go outside and walk barefoot in the grass. Our connection to earth is so important to us, and it has everything to do with frequency. Everything, everything, people, inanimate objects were made of matter. And that matter is essentially like atoms with electrons moving around in there, right? Nothing is still, nothing is static, nothing is solid. We are all energy. And that's kind of what I think is cool about my background in astrophysics is like the more you learn about the minuscule parts to our universe and how matter forms and how it interacts and the chemistry of it all, you realize that we're all just energetic beings. And our different moods are our different frequencies. And so, we were talking earlier, it was about how if you walk into a room and your, friend or significant other is depressed, you feel it before anything else because they're vibrating at a lower frequency than normal. We interact with that, what we call our intuition, that is us interacting energetically before we interact vocally. And so that kind of a feeling is why so many people, cultures, way back before we had modern day science, you have examples of cultures interacting with crystals in that way. And why some days I might prefer one crystal over another. I might
Mhm.
need a certain vibration or frequency. And other days, I just don't even want to work with that crystal that was perfect yesterday, right? Like
Right.
where everything's changing and the interaction is so important. And I know you and I share a philosophy that it's about playing with the crystals and
Mhm.
finding what works for you, finding your own connection. I can tell you as much as you want to hear about what it's supposed to do, but really the best thing to do is hold that crystal and figure out how it interacts with your energy field. And that's something that's all based on frequency. It's all about vibrational energies, whether it's light energy, the color of the crystal, whether it's the vibrational energy. You talk about quartz watches and
Mhm.
how quartz has been used for years as a controlled oscillator to make sure that machines worked the way they were supposed to before we developed computers.
Yeah.
So all of those things are just energy waves that we're interacting with.
Well, I think we also were talking about Marcel Vogel. He was a scientist at IBM. One of the
Yes.
reasons why the clear quartz is in every computer and operating system to regulate the temperature, date, and time. And actually, when I opened up my center, we do have still a Marcel Vogel crystal healing bed, and that also has the color therapy. So, like you were saying, color also holds a frequency, and music, sound, noises, all of it has different frequencies, and there's negative frequencies and positive frequencies. And I feel like, that saying that your vibe attracts your tribe, it's so true because, our vibration also interacts with our environments and the people in it. So even if you don't say stuff, it's, people could feel your vibe, even if they just tune into it. It's like we're all radio receivers, and we're
Right.
just tuning into these different frequencies around us, and able to go a little bit deeper in connecting to that energy. So I always like to say, for anyone that's starting off with crystals, you could really just tap in, very similar to that tool I introduced earlier, the Wheel of Life, is kind of go into your life, take a review and say, okay, what area could I use more support in? Trusting myself, loving myself. Maybe it's taking care of myself. Maybe there's a specific thing I'm going through and I just want more energy to support me with that. And so just research it, Bing it, Google it, whatever your browser type is, and see what pops up. And start with that crystal, start with that tool. Don't try to have anyone prescribe, although you can describe what you're growing through, and I'm sure they'll have amazing recommendations. But when I had my own crystal store, I would tell people, hold it in your right hand, hold it in your left hand, feel the frequency with you. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, I don't feel anything. I'm like, perfect, not for you. Let's see if this one. And the more, to me, the more people could connect, the more they could feel a frequency. To me, that's the crystal energy working with the individual. And I know you have a similar approach too, when you have your customers come to you with, specific needs and desires, and you're able to intuitively call forth a crystal to support them as well. So I know you also connect with that. And anything else that comes up with crystals and, connecting to the energy that you think could be supportive for people that are just starting out with crystals, or even if you feel like people that have crystals and, maybe don't connect to them, are there any ways that you like to go to, whether that's your science way or, your intuitive way?
Well, I think it's really important for people to learn to trust their response and their reaction. It's kind of a joke between my friends that I don't work with lapis.
Yeah.
I always break it. It doesn't want to be near me, and I don't want to be near it. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful stone. For people who work with it, it's amazing. But you
Yep.
have to trust that and
Yeah.
learn that there are just certain things. If it feels wrong, it's not right.
Yep.
And, I do have that same approach when people see my jewelry and they're trying pieces on and they can't decide between them. The answer I always give is just imagine putting it down and walking away. And can you let it go? Because if you can, nothing here is for you. There'll be something later. It's like the worst business model ever, but it works in the long run for
Yes.
me, because if you can't put a stone down, if you
Mm-hmm.
can't walk away, if it's calling to you in some way, then there is something that you need from it.
Yeah.
And so often people, when they put the right necklace on, they'll know it. Or when they see it, I'll post something on my Instagram or Facebook, and I'll get a message right away. And someone says, that has my name on it.
Yeah.
And it's often just that intuition. That's what you need to listen to.
Mm-hmm. I
Don't
agree.
overthink it.
Yep. I mean, that's just a good reminder is, energy is very intuitive. And like you said, what worked for one day might not necessarily work on other days. And it's important to just stay rooted, stay grounded into your own current frequency, and if something calls to you like a tool or a song, explore it because it could be that simple. Sometimes I hear in the back of my head, I hear a song and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play that song because I feel like it's just going to open up something for me. So when we get back, we're going to go dive in deeper into this asteroid that is coming towards planet Earth and what that might entail for us. So after the commercial break, we'll be back with Master Your Energy, and I'm Sara Wong. Stay tuned. And it's Sara Wong here with Master Your Energy. And this episode, we're diving into all things crystals, rocks, energy. And if you're just tuning in, this show is all about the energy going on in the collective and introducing new tools, perspectives to support you and navigating some of those nuances. So if you're just tuning in, one of the big energies we're talking about this week is the asteroid that's going to be flying by safely Earth on Friday. And in that, I have my dearest friend, Emma Roberts, former astrophysicist turned crystal jewelry designer, here to talk all things crystals and go deeper into this energy. So, welcome back, Emma.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about the asteroid energies and kind of what that means. I think
Yes.
there's a lot to unpack there.
Yep. Let's dive in. Let's do it.
Okay, so I love the fact that you say safely because I think that's so important. Like, this is not going to hit us. Um,
No.
and this is the first pass. We have another pass happening in about eight years or so. It'll be much closer to the Earth. So 2029, this is our practice run. So
Yep.
it's a good way to kind of see how it's going to affect you. The cool thing about asteroids is they're not in a normal orbit. So they come in and visit and leave and kind of disrupt our energies a little. And this pass, it won't be close enough. But I think in 2029, you were talking about like how close it's going to get.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool because gravitationally, that pass is going to change the shape of the asteroid in some way, which is so neat when you think about these interactions. Earlier, we were talking about how, our own frequencies interact with those around us. This is like a cosmic scale version of that. You've got this asteroid passing by close in 2029, and it could stretch or get compact from that gravitational tug and pull between them. And I think that's just a really good reminder that nothing happening within our frame of reference is independent of everything else, that this all affects us in some way. And it affects us in different ways. There are some people who are not bothered or even notice any sort of energetic difference with an asteroid passing by. But there's a whole study of the idea that these asteroids disrupt and really shift the energy. There are people who are into that Kundalini awakening and the idea of just lighting yourself on, like you're on fire. You are just alive. A lot of people can attribute that to the energy of an asteroid passing or another planetary alignment. And I think that's something that we're probably going to see with people who are really in tune. This Friday might be a big day for them energetically.
Yeah, and if you never heard the term Kundalini Awakening, then check out the episode from last week. I had Pagan George on, and he actually went into his experience with his own Kundalini Awakening during the harmonic convergence in 1987. So make sure to check that out. It's on kcaaradio.com, and you can watch all the Master Your Energy or listen to all of the Master Your Energy episodes, and also on our Energy Haus YouTube channel. We have the behind the scenes footage so you can see our faces. If you want to see what we look like, we're not hiding. You can check us out on the YouTube channel. And that is interesting, Emma, because you're right. It is, I think there's an energy coming in that intuitively I think we all feel. And, whether that's in the collective, whether that's individual, and it goes a little something like this. I feel like a lot of us are kind of in this ocean, and this ocean is very wide, very expansive, and we're floating on a comfortable raft. Although I think we all have had to surrender different things, adjust in a way. And for some of us, we see a horizon, we see where we're headed. We just have to be patient. It's not here yet, but something's about to manifest, something's about to come. And others, we might see a lot of different horizons. And now we get to choose, like, okay, do we go left? Do we go right? Do I start here and then go here? Right. And requires a little more mythology. So I believe that this kind of first pass of this energy coming on Friday to Earth is going to give us an opportunity to get a glimpse of some of that energy. And maybe that just sparks an awakening, like you mentioned, a Kundalini awakening, which also could be a spark of intuition. It could be clarity, deep clarity coming to help move out some blocks. And as I mentioned, we're in Pisces season, which is the last zodiac sign of 2020. So it's here to clear out any residual and really activate our dreams, our desires, our passions, and help us move in a way that feels in an alignment. So I think that this energy is going to bring an opportunity if we so choose to see it. It's up to us individually. And it maybe comes Friday, maybe it comes, energy is interesting because it's to me it has like a window of effectiveness. It's, it kind of like builds up and then once it's here it releases. And so in there's like a window. I feel like Thursday to Saturday we're probably going to feel the energy of this asteroid flying by Earth in some way, however that individually or collectively manifest. Who knows?
I think it's interesting that you talk about a window. I don't see it as like a window of opportunity the same way, but
Yeah.
I visualize it like when you stick your hand in still water, like in
Hmm.
a pool, the
Yep.
ripples take a while to get to the edge.
Yes.
But when they do hit the edge, they were created by you putting your hand in the pool. So I think there's a lot of that when you're talking about how energy travels and how it affects us differently, the ripple effect, we're not
Yes.
all going to feel things the same way at the same time. That's how I envision it, that
Yes.
waves in the pool from your
Yeah.
description there.
Yep.
So I'm a very visual person, if you can't tell.
I am right there with you.
I think it's also kind of cool to look at how, we talk crystals, and of course, asteroids are cool, but let's talk about like the crystals connected with asteroids because I
Yes.
think those are even more cool.
Yep.
Um, you know, so meteorites are pieces of asteroids that basically make it to the Earth, that they don't burn up in the atmosphere. So they're very rare because when they do come through, most of the time it's incinerated before it gets to us, which is why we really don't live in threat of being hit by an asteroid, or a meteor shower is not going to like hit us on the head and knock us unconscious. Like that's not really going to happen. And that's our atmosphere protects us. But when they do fall through, they are connected so much with clients who really want to explore that Kundalini energy. They are the cosmic kick in the pants to kind of clear your energetic field and make some changes that need to happen. And then I think anyone who's into crystals knows about Moldavite or has heard about Moldavite. Moldavite is really cool because it was formed on an impact site. So it is this really unusual crystal. It's only found in one part of the world. So it's from the Czech Republic, right? And it's a site 15 million years ago that had an impact. And that impact was so intense and powerful, it literally created moldavite, which is it's a tektite, it's a silica base. So it's like a glass, like obsidian. It requires that high impact, high temperatures. But it's this strange mix of earthly energy and non-earthly energy. And so many people love moldavite because it really is that hurricane, that like shake it up, stir it all up, and help you figure out what serves you and what doesn't. And I think that's kind of you when you connect to those crystals, the meteorites and the moldavites, you kind of get a better understanding of how this pass of the asteroid may or may not affect you.
It's so interesting because, like, when I think of the energy of a meteorite and moldavite, moldavite vibrates and is like a green color, which is, why a lot of people sell moldavite as fake glass. So, you really got to feel the moldavite energy. To me, it actually makes me nauseous energetically. It's a little too strong. I don't connect to it as much, but when I am wanting to break through something, I do leverage it in a way that serves me. It's, my own process, but it's very special. And I will say, like, you'll feel the difference between a fake one and a real one. A real one is just the energy is very vibrational, very different, and it immediately brings awareness. And because it vibrates at that green color, to me, what you're saying is, it allows you to break through your truth. And to me, that's connected to our heart chakra. And a lot of us have a blocked heart energy. Chakras are energy centers that vibrate in a certain frequency that typically vibrate in a color. And the color of our heart chakras is also green. So in a sense, that allows us to honor our truth. And sometimes that is breaking through some hard realities. And I always like to use the example is sometimes in life we have a truth that isn't someone else's. And we have to honor what's best for us. And that other person might not understand it. They also might be not in a place to understand it based on what they're growing through. And the only thing we can do is really honor our truth. And even if that means we're not going to always please others. And Moldavite to me has that like confidence energy in it. This kind of like it's time to honor this. And I don't really care what's required. And but in a way that's loving and strong and foundational. So meteorite is to me different because it has a scale of like black to gray, and to me it helps transmute kind of that mental debris. It's almost like clears my third eye, my intuition, and allows me to kind of expand my consciousness in a different way. So I feel like a lot of people overemphasize moldavite, but I think meteorite is actually, because there's a lot of different parts meteor in the world based on the meteor activity, where meteorites can be found, but it's still very limited. So these energies are out of this world. And if you are called to work with them, I would say, make sure you're also working the grounding stone and, energies that can help anchor you back into this form and, allow you to process, because it's gonna bring up a lot of information to explore for sure.
Yes, I have so many examples of people in my life who have turned to Moldavite because it's the trendy new thing, which is funny to think of it as the trendy new thing because it's been around for 15 million years since that first impact.
Right.
But there are studies or examples of it being used in, Czech culture. It was just on the ground. Like when they first found it, it's just scattered. It's not like mining or digging or anything.
Yeah.
But it is rare because it's limited to this one event. And so, as you mentioned, like people will fake it because if it's rare, they can make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that rareness also makes people want to work with it. And if you work with it too soon, if it doesn't vibe with you well, like you were saying, it can make you nauseous, it can be overwhelming. But the cool thing about crystal energies is that you can dip your toe in with other crystals. And I always am drawn to different crystals depending on where the moons fall. And, we just had the new moon or the full moon in Virgo,
Yep.
and I'm a Virgo. So
Yeah.
for me, I found myself attracted to green apophyllite, which
Mhm.
is, again, very high vibrational crystal, but not anywhere near the chaos and the whirlwind that comes from that, like, as you were saying, otherworldly energy of Moldavite. It's a little bit softer and gentler. And so there are so many heart chakra stones that you can still use for letting go and for clearing away. Another one I love is stillbite.
Mhm.
Stillbite is so gentle. And I think these are on the other end of the spectrum, and there's a
Yep.
lot in between.
Yes.
Heart chakra stones are amazing, but
Mhm.
finding the one for where you're at is so important
Yep.
because you don't want to crack open,
Right.
like you want to be gentle with yourself. You want to honor where you're at. And so I think finding those crystals that still speak to the things that are happening around us, but work on your vibrational level, especially if you're new to crystals, that's so important. There will always be time to go to some of those crazier, like more energetic crystal reactions in the future. But we can still tune in to the same energies that this asteroid pass is bringing, and that, the what's happening in the world right now, we can tune in on the level we're ready for.
Yeah. And it's funny, we're talking so much about green, and green has been showing up a lot in my own reality. And, it's spring and we're growing, we can grow food, we can start planting, we can, start harvesting in different ways. And to me, we're really moving into our heart energy as a collective. And I think, if anything, that this asteroid will bring to us is us expanding into that heart energy even more. It's so alive. And, I listen, I work with different clients every single week, and I hear so many different updates of all parts of walk of life. I have clients in London, I have clients all around the country, and it's a nice check-in. I feel so connected to like Texas and all the different epicenters that have become epicenters in like the last year. But I feel like right now we're really building into community and trust and exploring ways to connect in different ways. And I really believe that the energy of this asteroid coming on Friday is going to give us that opportunity to step into that heart space a little bit more, whether that's trusting ourselves with the new information we receive, or, whatever manifest for us. And I always see it as a way for evolving. And, in life, I think the more we can look at things as a way to say, okay, how can I grow from this? And obviously, sometimes we need to process an event. So, one thing I love about your work specifically is how you connect to the crystals and bring to life their natural beauty. Because one thing I love about crystals is, as a little girl, my great aunt, she had a garden and she had crystals in there. But, at the time I was little, so I thought they were just rocks. And I was like, these are cool rocks, and I was kind of a kid that just constantly wanted to like take anything cool, but I just always honored that they belonged in her garden. It was just like, oh, these are amazing crystals, and I just love them. But again, I thought they were rocks. And there's some rocks, some crystals, all different types. And I remember that one of the things I realized about that is I love the energy of it, and I loved how beautiful they are. And so when I met you, um, I loved how you spoke about how you enhance their energy with copper, and you connect to how their formations and their energy. So can you just talk about that process, because I think it's so beautiful, but also very valuable for people who want to connect to energy, regardless if it's a rock or crystal.
Absolutely. I again, such a nerd. I could talk about the science of what I do so much. So I'll try I'll try not to go there. But one of the things I try to do with my work is honor what makes that individual crystal unique. And if you think about it, no two crystals look alike. If they are, they're cut and polished. I don't work with those. I work with them raw, where when you're digging them out of the earth, things break. There's different fractures, there's different shapes, geodes slice differently, all these different things. I preserve that. I don't cut and polish and facet and make them into semi-precious stones. I work with them as raw as I can get. And in order to preserve that, I use electric current to set my metal, and I set it molecularly. So instead of taking a large, like, piece of copper and hammering it and soldering it and folding it around the crystal and making it work, I instead use electric current to break it down molecularly and reassemble it onto the stone. And that process can take up to 3 or 4 days per piece. It's such a slow process, but what it does is it enhances the natural textures. So where there's a break, the copper will just settle in, and somehow that makes it even more beautiful because it's a one of a kind. And the backs of the pieces sometimes are cooler than the front because these
Yeah.
just textures and things are enhanced in metal in a way that you can't do without the use of electric current. It's so science nerdy and fun, but what it does is it creates one of a kind pieces that I keep the crystal in its unique shape. And the other piece that I love is copper is a perfect conductor of electric current, right? Electromagnetic energy. So when you're setting a stone in copper, not only are you enhancing its beauty, but you're not in any way interfering with the vibrations of that crystal. it's why the science works of how I can set it molecularly and use electric current to do that. But it's also that science is why it works so well that you feel like you dug that rock out of the garden and you're wearing it. It doesn't feel altered in any way.
Yes, I personally wear Emma's jewelry every single day, and I will say I do own a lot of crystal jewelry, and but I do have a specific piece that I wear every single day that has the copper, and I do feel the difference. I absolutely do. It's one of my tools I wear as, my energetic protection and shield in different ways. And I will say that your jewelry is so unique. And not only that, I mean, look at you. You're a very unique individual in a very good way. And I think we're so lucky to have you here on Earth to help explain the true frequencies and energies of crystals, because I feel like they can easily be discounted, but they are amazing tools. So if people want to see your work of art, how do they find you?
Well, I personally say the best way to find me is Instagram because all of my things are one of a kind. If you want to see it happening in action, that's where to go. So I am Desert Daisy Jewelry on Instagram. You can also go to my website, which is www.desertdaisyjewelry.com. Try to keep it as simple as possible. And you can also reach out to me personally. Most of what I do is custom work. And that's what I love. I love creating for you specifically. So don't be afraid to reach out, send an email, DM, find me. We'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, what I love about Emma too, I send her a lot of clients that are looking for tools that they can wear every day, and she makes it specific to your needs. But what I love most is you're also very intuitive and you know how to recommend crystal energies and educate people on how to work with them for their own needs as well. So, also just wanted to add that. And what I love is she's flexible in pricing. I feel like you're fair in terms of what you create. And, if you have a budget, let Emma know and she'll let you know what she can work with. And I love that. I think, we're in a time of being flexible and fluid. And I think us knowing tools are available at different price ranges is also important because, Emma's art pieces can be very expensive. And then she has other alternative items that I feel like are just as powerful too.
Well, thank you very much for that. I want my work to be available to those who need it. So it is important for me to have levels. And I love the creative elements of my big art pieces, but I recognize that everybody needs them in some way. And I try to be available for that.
Yes. And that's why I love you because, another side note, which Emma probably wouldn't talk about, but she's, her pieces have been on the red carpet and favored by many celebrities and well-known people in general. So, I know your art is seen by many and respected by many as well. So I think it's awesome that you get this crystal energy out there in a new way that others connect with and empower them. And it's really, really beautiful to see. So thank you again for all of your creations. Is there anything else you'd love to add, or maybe any last thoughts on crystals and ways people can dive deeper with them?
Well, I have to say thank you for saying so many wonderful things about me, Sarah. That I'm like, I can't. Oh, I just love that. So thank you so much for recognizing and for being someone who recognized early when I moved here and helped me kind of own what I have to offer. Um, I think if people want to dive deeper into crystals, there are so many resources out there. You can get a great book. My favorite is the Book of Stones, Who They Are and What They Teach. I know you know it. It's
Mhm.
an amazing, intuitive way to immerse yourself, but there is nothing better than getting back to nature. Just paying attention to the rocks on the side of the road is a start. And I know it sounds so simple because we're talking about these beautiful, crazy crystal structures, but it's all the same. And when you start seeing it, you're going to start interacting at that frequency and you're going to start noticing more of your desire to connect to the earth.
I
And I
love
think
it.
that's what starts it all.
Back to earth, back to the basics, right? Just like your journey. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Emma. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next week. I'll be back on the air live for Master Your Energy here on KCAA. And with that, it was so beautiful to connect with you all. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in this week to Master Your Energy with Sara Wong. It is my true honor to be here on KCAA Radio, 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, and 106.5 FM. The stations that leave no listener behind. And then you can catch me here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. And if you're also looking for more energy tools like crystals, essential oils, services to go deeper with your energy and soul purpose, please make sure to check out energyhauslb.com. That's energyhauslb.com. This is Sara Wong, and it's been my honor to guide you through the energy of this week, and I look forward to connecting next Tuesday at 4 p.m. to explore the energy of the week, gather new tools, and connect with like-minded individuals. And with that, this is Sara Wong signing off. Have a beautiful week, and when we master our energy, we can absolutely master our reality.